Hello everybody, I'm Chantel and we are here in Austin, Texas for the Open at Austin presented by Flight Factory. This video is going to be a little bit different than our regular tournament vlogs. I'm going to be bringing you along a practice round and we are going to make a solid game plan. Last week at Waco, I feel like I was missing that confidence and knowing exactly where I want to land. The course that we are playing this week is pretty straightforward, but there are some very hard wooded holes with OB right and left and very particular landing zones. So Chris and I are going to make a very strong game plan, so hopefully when I land there, I know what to do. I know every shot's not going to go my way and you might have to stray a little bit from the game plan, but I am interested to see if having this game plan makes me feel more confident and maybe I can hit those landing zones a little bit better when I know exactly what disc and what angle I want to throw. So let's head out to the course and make that strong game plan. Hole 6, par 4, 535, the first hole that is in the woods. And this is the first hole that I really need to make a strong game plan because things can go really bad here. We have OB right, we have a Mando, basket's all the way over there. So this is gonna be a hard one, but Chris is gonna tell me exactly what to do and we're gonna figure it out.
Oh yeah, right here. So my suggestion would be F3, right down the middle, and then you want it to hyzer a little bit left. It opens up the next shot.
So F3, right down the gap. Oh man, this tree for some reason on the right, I know it's gonna be a heartbreaker.
Wow, it was magical. That was perfect, just do that. There it is.
So while making this game plan, this is the perfect shot, but the next couple days when I was practicing, I had so much trouble hitting that gap every single time I threw. I would hit that right tree and then I would overcorrect and hit the left tree. So we actually decided that a sidearm was the play because even if you messed up the tee shot, the outcome was usually better.
There you go.
That's perfect. I am not going to be trying to get a birdie on this hole. I really want a par. I'm really sick of double bogeys. This is great. I would take this every time. I think what I'm thinking about is these hard par 4s are where I most likely am going to get some bogeys. So if I can play these clean and get a par, I can score on a lot of the par 3s. So I need to keep that in my brain. Here we go.
Perfect.
Hole 7 of par 3, 305 feet. This hole's footage is good, but the actual hole itself is kind of difficult. We have a tree right where you want to throw, so it's kind of like, do I want to do a flex sidearm or do I want to try to miss that tree and like have it flip up? I don't know, I'm thinking I might just have to throw putter. So my thought is to just throw this PA5 on a hyzer and see if it holds really straight, and hopefully I'm just in the middle of the fairway.
Safe.
See, I earlier released that. It's technically a bad shot, but since it was a putter, it went nowhere, and now I'm in kind of the middle of the fairway. That's better. Oh, wow.
There you go. Easy par.
Hole 8 is a par 4, 570 feet. This is another disaster hole. As you can see where Allie Smith is standing, that's basically where you want to land. And then it's a throw to the basket. We're gonna figure it out. So I'm going to try and throw my F5, and if this doesn't work out, I might just throw a putter on this one again, see where I land. That's
Yep.
perfect. I just want to be able to do that every time. Now I'm going to throw my putter up the straight gap and see what happens to it. Maybe it's a safer play because there is OB left. That might open, I don't know. They both look good. We're gonna see what lines we have. I think the putter is the way to go. Now I have just a sidearm up the gap. I'm staying away from OB. I think this is what I'm gonna do. Come on. Yep. Oh, that's fine though. This is honestly probably the hardest shot that we have on this hole. There's just so many stick trees, and yeah, there's a perfect little line to the basket, but can you actually throw in it? Look at that. It's perfect. perfect. Hole 11, par 5, 960 feet. This hole's a doozy. We got lots of OB, and it's pretty far for me anyway. First shot, you just want to keep it in bounds. It is quite tight on the fairway, and when you hit the ground, you skip far. So you really have to make sure that you're kind of hanging it over and having it skip and stay in bounds. So that is the first thing that we are going to try to do, is stay in bounds.
Nice.
See how much it skips? That's so scary though, the whole time it's OB. So where I'm probably gonna be landing on my next shot is the skinniest part of the fairway. So I think I might disc down to a mid so that it minimizes the skip.
Okay, right over the green, or the hazard.
The bunker. It looked like it was almost in the bunker, but it got over it and we're safe. And that's what matters. So now I just have to throw over that green, and then we have a little pitch up for a par. That sounds great. Oh, yeah, that's good.
Perfect.
We got it over. Throw it in.
Ooh.
Hole 17, a par 4, 505 feet. This hole, we have a longer pin position than the men, and theirs is a par 3 and it's shorter. This hole, I don't think that I should be throwing a putter. I think I should be throwing a full speed driver, trying to get a birdie for this one. It's pretty straightforward. You have something turn. There is OB left, so that's the only thing you really have to worry about. Oh, okay. You know what, that turned a lot. I think it might be okay though. So I don't love where this landed, but I do think it is the smarter thing to do, because if I don't get enough turn on my D3, I could go OB. There's no OB over here, so why wouldn't I take the safer route? I still have a shot to get the birdie, but it's gonna be tricky. Oh, it's perfect. Get up there.
There you go.
Look at that. Easy as pie. Okay, we made it to hole 18. It's a par 5, 685 feet. We got a tricky little tee shot, and then a tricky next shot, and then a tricky next shot. There's a lot of trees, a lot of OB, so you just want to be perfectly in the center every single time, which yesterday I was having a little bit of trouble. My fastest were skipping to left. I was turning over my slowest, so I think I'm going to try and throw a putter off this, and I just want to stay center cut. In the middle.
Dead center.
It sucks that it doesn't go as far, but it is safe. I might just be throwing that putter the whole way. This is the conundrum I'm in. If I'm up and down for that, that's a birdie. This one, I still have a couple throws to make to get for par. Heads up! Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so we got a birdie with the fast speed disc on the last hole, which, should I be throwing the putter, being safe on the last hole, or should I be going for it? I think it comes down to, if I'm throwing well that day, throwing my fast speed disc well, then I should be going for the birdie. I think that's what I should do. Let's just get the pars and then birdie all the par 3s. That sounds like a good plan. First round of the Open at Austin. I'm feeling pretty good. My back is a little stiff, but I don't think it's gonna bother me too much. But I'm really excited just to get this going, stick to the game plan, see how it plays out.
Okay, round 1. I was feeling pretty confident. The warm-up was really good. All my putts were going in. And that always makes me feel extra confident when all my putts go in. Whatever happens on hole 1, I don't really think too much about it. I am super happy with just taking a par and moving on. Hole 2 is where the game plan starts to kick in. We got a par 5, and it is eagleable for some of the FPO players. Chris and I decided that it is just too easy of a birdie to give up to be trying to get over the green for an eagle. So I just have a drive that fades out, and then I have two 200-foot up shots and hopefully a close tap in for a birdie. And I'm very happy with that game plan. Taking a birdie early on, that always makes you feel good. Hole 3 is a pretty straightforward hole. You're just throwing it kind of uphill and hoping it doesn't skip too far left. There is a green that you have to get over, but you don't have to worry about it too much. And I threw this pretty good, and I got another birdie. One of the things that Chris and I were discussing is trying to get these early birdies so that when we are in the woods, we have some strokes to work with, just because those wooded holes are so hard that it's almost inevitable that you will bogey one of them. So I was happy to get another birdie, starting off pretty strong with 3 birdies in a row. This par 4 is also very birdieable. You should be getting to it every time. And I threw a good tee shot, but then this upshot, I just didn't trust in my disc. I kind of turned it over. I had a look at it, and I did a scared run, which you should never be doing a scared run because it's never going to turn out well. But here we are at hole 6. This is the first hole that just is a nightmare. We have a Mando, we have OB right and left, and so many trees. So this tee shot did not work out. I wanted to get around that tree, so now I'm kind of pinched off and I have to throw a turnover. So already the game plan is kind of like not going as planned, but I know that the left side is safer than the right. So I turn over my F3 and I didn't get as much distance as I wanted. So now I'm doing another turnover, and we're kind of just breaking the hole down little by little. And me and Chris talked about this. I am actually okay with taking a bogey on this hole. It's not like the biggest issue to me, but yeah, I just threw up my putter, and that is a tap in for a bogey. And then this hole, I also decided to slow down and do my putter up shot, and it worked out perfectly. I have an open putt for maybe a birdie, and that's all I wanted. So everything has kind of been going to plan. I just have to get out of this hole and we should be good. And I kind of turned my putter over there, hit a tree, but that's okay. You can still fight your way down there. And I decided I'm just gonna be throwing this putter the whole time, basically, on this hole, because the tree kicks, as you can see, they're not very bad. And I'm landing kind of in the middle of the fairway. And then this shot was pretty good. I was happy with it. I just threw my F3 up there, did a little upshot, and I'm tapping in for a bogey, which honestly, I am not mad with going 2 over for those 3 wooded holes. Now we're finally back out into the open, and this is a pretty tricky hole. If there's any wind, it makes your second shot so hard. And we had a right to left, so everyone's disc was really pushing far to the left going OB. I luckily just hung it over far enough, but this upshot was absolutely terrible. I turned it over, I was scared of it hyzering out, and now I'm just stuck doing a little upshot and hoping to save my bogey, which that was a good upshot, so I got away with that one. I'm not super mad with a bogey on that hole either. So as you can see, it is pretty windy now at this point, and it was a left to right, so I was thinking that my M2 would kind of get pushed down and turn a little bit, but it hyzered out and it went OB long, so I was kind of confused there. That was a bogey that I was not planning on getting, so that kind of sucked. And now we're here on the very long par 5. This is a hard hole, especially if there's wind. There's a lot of OB, and right where this second shot is, I did not feel comfortable throwing my driver because it kept skipping OB in practice. So we decided that we would disc down and I would throw a mid and just try to hit the landing zone, which luckily the boards hit my disc back in bounds, so I was in a really good spot. And now I'm just tossing my D3 up there, hoping that it stays really straight. It skipped so far left though that I almost went OB, but I do have a birdie look. And I was so excited because I didn't get there in practice, but I missed the putt. But we're tapping in for a par, and I can't really be too angry with that. And this hole, it's not that intimidating until you have to throw it in a tournament. I don't know what it was, but the Mando just seemed to be smaller. And I turned over my D3 and I went OB. So this is another hole that I'm taking a bogey on that I shouldn't have been taking a bogey. These are the birdie holes that I need to be getting, and getting a bogey on them is unacceptable. So as of right now, I kind of was feeling a little bit unconfident in my throws. I was kind of turning them over. The wind was a little bit opposite of what we practiced in, so I was throwing more stable discs, but it just wasn't working out. So settling for par on that one. And now we are here on hole 14, a hole that it is tight. If you hit a tree, you are very likely to bounce OB. So as you can see, I did a standstill off the tee because I was hitting the gap much better that way. And I pulled it, it hit a tree, but it was right in the middle. And then I threw an upshot, and I actually had a putt at the birdie, but I wasn't super confident with that bid, but it stayed close, and I'm tapping in for a par. Now this hole, I definitely want a birdie. I played this really well in practice each time. And it was a little bit of a left to right, so it was kind of pushing your disc further than you wanted to go to the right. So now I have this long putt, and I really wanted to get this birdie, but it was a tricky wind to be putting in with that slope, and I didn't do it very well. But it stayed close, and I was able to get a par. And then this hole, I was like, okay, I need to get this hole. I missed like all of my birdie holes. So I usually throw the D3, but it was a headwind, so I threw the D2, and it just didn't fade out enough. So I'm looking at this long putt. The tree's in my way, but I really wanted it. Oh, and it was just low. It was a good bid, though. Now this hole, I was like, okay, another birdie hole that I can definitely get, and it was a headwind, so I stabled up to my D3, and of course it did not flip, and I went OB. And now I'm just irritated, and I'm throwing up my discs quickly, trying to get off this hole, and I have this to tap in for my bogey, and the headwind just lifts it, and I tap in for a double. I was so upset. And then I throw an upset shot. I hit a tree, and now we're scrambling. Chris is reminding me we have to stick to the game plan, but I am just so irritated that I missed all my birdie holes, and I was messing up the easy holes, and now I'm just trying to stay alive, get off the course with at least a par. And this is my par putt, so I'm just inside the circle, and I decided, okay, my stagger putt wasn't working, so I'd switch to a straddle. And it finally goes in. So I was scrambling a little bit on that one, but we did get the par. So I wasn't super happy with the round. I did play my rating at 937, but my throw slowly felt less confident. Same with my putting. And I just felt like I was scrambling most of the time. So I wasn't super happy with how the round went. It's raining. Oh no. Well, hopefully the rain stops, but I'm just going to try to stick to my game plan. Again, it would be really nice to get some of those par 3 birdies that I missed out yesterday on, but yeah, I just want to clean up some of the mistakes I made.
Welcome back to the Open at Austin, presented by Flight Factory Disc. First up on the tee box, you may know her as Miss Frisbees, sponsored by Prodigy and Disc Republic, Chantel Wadinsky.
So round 2 started. My warm-up was not as good as the first day. I noticed that I was missing a lot of my putts, and I was like not feeling as confident, and also the weather was looking very questionable. I just really wanted to clean up my round. I didn't really care if I was getting a ton of birdies. I just wanted to keep it very clean. So I did throw a really good drive on hole 1 today, but I still was fresh, missing all my putts from practice, so I was not feeling confident on this, and I hate that I have to feel that way because I know I can putt well. And just because you're warming up doesn't mean that that's what your putt's going to be like for the round. But moving on, I got my par. Hole 2, I was feeling confident about this. Our game plan was pretty solid. It's pretty straightforward. You throw your shot, do 2 up shots. The landing zones are pretty forgiving as long as you don't go OB. And I just threw my 200-foot up shots, got up there for a birdie. And that one made me feel a little bit better. I made a little putt, getting warmed up. Hole 3, I was just looking to do the exact same thing that I did the day before, but I just turned it a little bit too much. And I got over the green, so everything was fine. And I was contemplating running this, and I gave it a little half bid, which you should never do that, but it works out, and I got a tap in par. Now, I don't know what went wrong here, but I just early released my M2, and it starts hyzering out right into OB, which I hate making mistakes like this. It's just, I feel like it's a mistake for no reason. I just didn't keep it out wide enough, and now I got a stroke for a stupid mistake. But I tap in my bogey, and we are moving on. Hole 5, very birdieable hole. I parted the day before, so I'm looking to birdie this one and get another stroke for the woods holes. So I throw a really good drive, and I'm telling myself just throw straight at the pin, because yesterday I didn't trust my disc. And this actually worked out really great. I'm a little bit deep, and this pin's a little bit scary to putt on. I see a lot of rollaways on it, but I was pretty close, and I am getting a birdie on it, which that was nice. So I got an extra stroke going into the woods. Chris missed my tee shot, but I hit a tree and I bounced over here. And I was just trying to keep something safe out to the left. It went a little bit too left, so now I'm doing another turnover, which usually isn't a problem, but I did notice in this round that I was kind of turning my sidearm over a little bit too much, so it was making scrambling a little bit hard. And so now I'm outside the circle for my bogey putt, and I totally airball it, but I tapped in for a double. Now I'm looking at this hole, just trying to throw straight down the gap, how I did it the day before, but I turned over my putter, and of course it bounced OB. So now I'm scrambling, and that shot wasn't the worst, but I overturned it again, and it was too low. So now I'm looking at this to save my bogey, and it's pretty far outside of the circle. And it wasn't the worst bid, but it was just a little bit too high. Tapped in for a double, so 2 doubles in a row. So I threw my PA5 again, and this was decent. I got it on the hyzer line, and I'm in the middle of the fairway. And then I hit the tree, basically directly in front of me. So now I'm just trying to scramble and get some forward progress. And I don't know why it was so difficult, but there again, I'm turning over my sidearm. And I actually did a pitch up to this area, and now I'm pitching up to take a double bogey. So that was really hard. I just took 3 doubles in a row, and I am not feeling the greatest. And then this was a little bit high, but it stops in time, and I'm in an okay area. I'm just trying not to think of what I did the day before, but we had way less wind, so I actually throw a decent upshot, and I get up there for a birdie putt. Now I really want to sink this, trying to make up for those extra strokes that I took up in the woods. And it was a decent effort, but it was just a little bit low. These holes are so much easier when there is no wind. You can just throw your disc the way you know how it flies, and you don't have to worry about anything else. And I left this one a little bit short, so I'm looking at this long putt. And I finally get one in, and that felt really good because I wasn't feeling super confident with my putt, and it went in. So that means that I can make putts and I can move on. So this hole, I am just throwing my stable D2 out to the right and hoping that it doesn't skip too far. And it just keeps rolling, but we are in the center of the fairway. I'm sticking to the game plan, throwing my mid-range, trying to stay directly in the middle of the fairway. That is the plan. So now this is the shot that I go for the green. And I don't know what happened, but my D3 just really flipped over and it never came back. So I went OB, and I had to rethrow from here. And this was actually a really great shot. I basically parked it, but it sucks because I played the hole so clean, and then I would just tapped in for my bogey. So the first round I overturned my drive here, but today I made a good correction and I got it flat, but it did hyzer off a little bit. And now I'm stuck behind this tree just trying to hyzer my putt in, which is such a tricky putt to do, have your disc hyzer into the basket, but tapping in for a par. We had a much better wind for this hole, and I just threw my D3 on a hyzer, and it skipped up there, and I'm in the circle looking at a birdie. And I made the putt, so it's nice to get one of those par 3s. You really want to get one of those birdies in that little stretch of holes. Chris missed my tee shot for this hole again, but I hit a tree and I was left with this lie, and I was scared to swing my hand and hit that tree there, but it worked out and I got out here. But I'm laying up for my par, and that was not the best layup, but I'm pretty close, and I'm tapping in for a par. Hole 15 is a hole that I would like to birdie every single time. I'm just throwing my D3 on that Anheuser. There was no wind today, so I really wanted to take advantage and get a look at the basket, which I did. I am around circle's edge with kind of a death putt, but the putting's good. Went in, got another birdie. This is also another hole that you should be birdieing, or at least getting a birdie look. And especially with no wind, you're kind of just throwing it straight at it, a little bit of Anheuser. And I got pin high, and I'm looking at another birdie. And it felt really good to get those birdies in, because that stretch of the wooded holes where I doubled 3 times in a row, it kind of erased one of those holes, so it made me feel a little bit better. And now this hole, oh my gosh, I threw it OB again. I just overturned it because I was worried about not turning it enough, and I hit that tree. So now I'm kind of scrambling, trying to get up there. And you can see the gap that I'm trying to hit on the right, and I actually hit it really well. And that was nice to get up there to save the bogey. So I saved my par yesterday from a bad drive, so I kind of was thinking that the birdie is more obtainable than I thought. And I threw a good tee shot. It did hit a little bit of a twig, so it knocked it down. But I'm looking at this, just trying to stay in the middle of the fairway, but get right before that big tree so I could do this hyzer, because it's really open over there rather than going the left side. And I was just a little bit closer to that tree than I wanted, so I early released, but it did get up there for a putt. And this is for a birdie. And it was just a little left side, but a tap in for a par, can't be mad at that. So I ended up shooting a +3 for the round, one better than the day before, but it was rated a 929, which was lower than the first day, probably because the wind was so low. It was frustrating because I played better this day, but since I had a rough time in the woods, it just took away all those birdies, but I was headed in the right direction.
Next up on the tee box, some of you know her as Miss Frisbees, sponsored by Prodigy Disc and Disc Republic, Chantel Budinsky.
Round 3, again we have questionable weather, but my warm-up was pretty good, and I was looking at getting under par this round. My drive was decent. I didn't get enough turn on it, so I was left outside the circle. And the first putt's always kind of nervy, but I was looking to make it, and it was a good line, but just a little bit too low. But moving on to hole 2, really want to birdie this for the 3rd time in the row. And I threw that kind of high, and the tailwind hyzered it out, so I'm a little bit further than where I usually was, but I just disced up to my M4, looking for it to keep really straight right before the green. And it does just that. Chris missed my upshot, but I basically got it in the bullseye for a tap and birdie, and I was really happy with that, getting that birdie every day, sticking to the game plan and not trying to get too greedy for the eagle. I was thinking about my drive the day before and how I overturned it, and of course that's what I did this day as well. You cannot be thinking of what not to do. You have to think about what you need to do. But I'm just pitching up. I luckily stayed off the green and I got my par. This hole I am trying to correct from the day before. I early released it and it went left OB, so I am hanging it out wider today, but I didn't throw it as hard as I needed to, and it was short and it bounced off the green, but it left me with a just outside the circle to look for the birdie. And that was a good line. I just did not get it in the air. It's kind of difficult picking where to aim when you're putting downhill. Hole 5, we are looking for a birdie at this hole. Very birdieable hole. Definitely save your par if you make a mistake. And I made a mistake, and I didn't turn my D3 over enough, so I landed OB, throwing from the drop zone. And this looked good, but it was just a little bit short, so now I have edge of circle putt to save my par. and I airballed it. It really hurts my feelings when I airball putts in the circle. So that was sad, but I got my bogey putt in and we're on to the next hole. That tee shot was just too high. I get a tree kick and I didn't miss the Mando, but I am in a terrible spot. So I'm just pitching around the corner trying to get into a better spot for an upshot. And that was okay. This hole is just so hard. You really want to get a good tee shot. If not, like, you're just scrambling the whole way, which this is what I was doing. And that was just too inside. I hit a tree and now I have a long look to save a bogey, I believe, which I missed, but I'm tapping in for a double. Again, I'm just throwing my putter on this hole, hoping to miss that middle tree, and I commit to the hyzer, flips up, and it goes straight, and that is wonderful. I don't even care how far I am from the basket. If I hit that gap, I am happy, because now I got a long look, but I just lay up, and I'm taking a par. I'm taking that same PA5, hitting it on a hyzer, hoping it doesn't hit any trees, and that was the best tee shot that I had of the weekend on this hole. I'm pretty much in the middle of the fairway looking down that very intimidating gap, but I'm throwing the same PA5 once again, just trying to hit it nice and straight and have the disc work for me, which that was probably the best shot I've ever thrown. It just felt so good to finally throw two good shots on this hole. And now I have this really long look at a birdie, but I'm mostly just trying to lay this up so I can finally take a par on this very hard, difficult hole. It felt like a birdie to me. Back out in the open, you feel like you can kind of breathe. And I threw my tee shot, and I thought it was looking pretty good, but it held so straight, and it just bounced right on that green. So that's a very unnecessary stroke. And now I'm further back than I want, and I just did not get the flip that I wanted on my disc. Goes OB. Chris missed my upshot, but it wasn't very good. It almost went OB again, and then I missed that putt. So that was a very quick triple bogey that I was not looking at getting. I guess you never really look at getting a triple bogey. But we move on to the next hole. I throw my M2, and I get it to the circle, trying to clean up one of those strokes that I just made on the previous hole. A tricky headwind putt, but I get it in, and I got rid of one of those strokes at least. At this time, it starts basically storming, really windy, it starts raining. So I disked up to my D1, and I didn't get as much distance, but I'm okay as long as it's inbounds. So I'm shorter than I wanted, and it was super windy, so I decided to disc up to my F model OS, and it was looking really good, but it started bouncing all the way to OB, but it stopped just in time. And now I'm just throwing another stable D2 out, hoping that it hyzers in. And I'm just really trying to get a par on this hole because the wind was whipping at this point. And that worked out great, and I just have a little pitch up, trying to get it as close as I can to the basket so I can just drop in for a par. It was pretty tricky with the wind on this hole. It was a right to left kind of headwind, so I disked up to my more stable D3, and it just bounced off to the left. I kept it out safe, but I didn't have any look at a putt, so kind of just threw it up there, and I'm taking a par. Again, we are looking for a birdie on this hole, but my D3 just flipped up a little too much and went right, but we are safe, and I have a long look at it too. Kind of yanked that, but I guess a par is better than a bogey. Moving on, Chris actually got my tee shot for this hole, and I decided not to do a standstill and just go for the gap with my F3, and it worked out really well, and I'm basically in the perfect spot for an upshot to the basket. Now, I wasn't really thinking about the wind out there, but I'm just throwing my PA3, trying to keep it flat, but I early released it on a hyzer. It got all the way out there, but I was just so upset that I ruined my perfect tee shot, and now I'm in the bushes trying to putt for my birdie. And it was a tricky headwind. And to get it up that high, it was pretty hard because the trees were kind of in my way. But we're tapping in for a par, and we're moving on to this hole where I want to birdie it every single time. And I had a really good drive. I got it all the way up there. I think I was like 20 feet looking at this putt. And I just missed it low. And I was so sad. I know I need to get birdies at this point. I know I'm near the cash line. So that was kind of upsetting. But here we are, another birdie hole. I'm throwing my D2 the same way I would with my D3, but it was a headwind, and that was a very good throw. And I'm in the circle for another birdie look. I just need to make it. That's all I'm thinking. And it was an unconfident putt, but I did sneak it in, and I got the birdie for that hole. Hole 17, I've thrown OB both times, and I was so excited to just get that out to the right. Even though it was 2 turned over, I knew it was safe. And now I'm looking at this, just trying to blast one of my D3s up and hit one of the gaps through all those trees. And I got it through, and I'm just pitching up and I'm taking a par. I feel like that's a win for me since I had trouble with this hole the past 2 days. Hole 18, I'm feeling like I definitely need to birdie this hole to get in the cash. And I did not throw the best tee shot, but it landed okay. I was in the middle of the fairway. I could not complain with that outcome. Now I'm throwing my F3, just trying to get where that tree is. That was the game plan. I wasn't going to be trying anything crazy. And I got exactly where I needed to be. And now I'm throwing my Falcor out to the right, hyzering it in. And I got a really good angle on it. It was looking so good. But I don't know what it hit. It just kind of stopped skipping towards the basket. So now I'm outside the circle, and I don't really know it, but I kind of know it. I need to make this putt. So I'm kind of feeling the nerves at this point, and I totally blow it. I did not get it anywhere near as high as I needed to, and I'm tapping in for a par. Unfortunately, I missed cash by 1 stroke. So I just keep thinking back to those 3 putts that I missed that were near circle's edge, and I was just so upset with myself. I shot a +3 for this round, which today with the wind, it was a 944 rated round, and it didn't feel super great, but it also didn't feel the worst. I just had trouble on 3 holes, and I kept it pretty clean the rest of the day, but it just wasn't enough to get me in the cash line.
Well, I missed cash by 1 stroke.
1 stroke, so doable.
I mean, you can say it was the whole weekend, I just needed 1 stroke somewhere, but I feel like it comes down to those last couple putts on that last round, and I needed to make that last. It was just in the circle. I needed to make that putt, and I missed it low, and it was just unconfident. So you can say all of these things.
It was the OB strokes,
Yeah.
It was the drives. You could definitely pick apart everything. But it really sucks when it literally comes down to the last putt on the final hole.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is, because it's not like I'm here for the money. Obviously it helps, but it's just like saying, oh, I cashed at that Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite event. That makes you feel better. I think the positive out of all of this is that I feel like I am not playing very well, and I'm right there. I'm playing my rating, and I'm getting close to cash. So I think that is a good sign. It's very early in the year. I'm shaking off that rust. Haven't been playing much disc golf until now. Oh my gosh, we're playing so much disc golf.
Yeah, but about the game plan, the main thing is it really gave us a point to when Chantal was messing up, we could just fall back on it and be like, okay, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Like, you should be aiming here. This is the point. Like,
the landing zone. So like if you're out of position, how do we get back to that spot? That's really helpful, and it kind of makes you feel a little bit more confident. Even if you mess up that shot, it's like, okay, well, that's a stroke that I have. Now how can I get back on track? And that's something also that I feel like you just learn over time. Instead of trying to do like a crazy shot to get somewhere, it's how do I get back on track? And I'm still learning that, but I think it's something very good to have.
It probably sounds like something so obvious to you guys, but when you're here and you see all these other people playing their game and you're just like, oh, should I be able to do that? Is that what I should be doing? It can really mess with your head. And so it just makes sense to come back, simplify it, make a simple game plan that you're confident in and that you can rely on, and just keep going back to it.
Yes, stick to your game plan and your skills. Overall, it was not the outcome that I wanted, but we are moving in the right direction. I'm feeling a lot better on the course, feeling a little bit more normal, playing my game. That's all I can ask for.
It's definitely a positive step in the right direction. Chantel's getting better, she is getting her confidence back, that mental game back,
Yeah.
and we are moving forward. We got a tournament this weekend.
Yeah, US Women's. I'm so excited. We are here in Austin still, so that was nice. We didn't have to drive anywhere.
Yeah.
I think something that's very important is to make that game plan, try to stick to it, and just feel confident on the course. That's really all you can do, and then just make every single putt. That would help. Anyways, I hope that you liked this video. I really appreciate all of you watching and supporting me. Thank you all so much, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye.